What if everything you thought you knew about Aaron Rodgers was wrong, and this game was the moment it finally snapped into focus for everyone who doubted him, dismissed him, laughed at the idea that he still mattered, laughed at the idea that he could still command a locker room, still bend a game late, still stand in the middle of chaos and own it, because that is exactly what Sunday night felt like. Not a fairy tale, not a fluke, not a lucky bounce, but a brutal reminder that the NFL does not care about narratives you've already written. It only cares about who can survive when everything is on the line, and the Steelers were supposed to be dead, buried by their own fans, torn apart by weeks of frustration, whispers about firing everyone, whispers about tearing it down, whispers about what the future might be without Mike Tomlin, whispers about whether Aaron Rodgers was just a name at this point, and then suddenly it's win and you're in, lose and you're gone, season over, maybe jobs over, legacies questioned, and in that moment, in that pressure cooker against the Ravens, in prime time, with the division hanging in the balance, Rodgers didn't blink, the Steelers didn't blink, and the entire AFC North tilted on a missed kick that felt like destiny punching the league in the mouth, because when that ball went wide right, it wasn't just a miss, it was every take, every doubt, every smug dismissal of Pittsburgh collapsing all at once, and the uncomfortable truth started to creep in that maybe this team, this quarterback, this coach, weren't finished telling their story yet. Here's what actually happened and why it's blown up the NFL conversation overnight. On Sunday Night Football, with the AFC North on the line, the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens played a game that felt like it carried consequences far beyond one night. Win and you host a playoff game. Lose and you go home. Lose and the whispers get louder about coaching futures and organizational direction. In the end, after chaos, after momentum swings, after missed kicks and late heroics, the Steelers emerged as AFC North champions, and Pat McAfee's reaction zeroed in on the moment that defined it all. Aaron Rodgers proving everyone wrong when it mattered most. If you're enjoying this kind of no-filter breakdown of the biggest moments in the NFL, make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop a like, because stories like this don't end quietly, they keep unfolding. The game itself was madness layered on top of pressure. It opened with the Ravens punching first, Derrick Henry ripping off a massive run that immediately made it feel like one of those nights where Baltimore might just steamroll. But the Steelers hunkered down. They absorbed it. They refused to let the moment swallow them. By halftime, the score told a story of missed opportunities and razor-thin margins, a game that could have tilted either way depending on a decision here or a bounce there. Mike Tomlin's aggressiveness stood out, even when the execution didn't, and that matters because it signaled something deeper. A coach coaching to win, not to survive criticism. The second quarter belonged to Pittsburgh. The third quarter tightened into a defensive struggle that drained momentum from Baltimore. And then the fourth quarter exploded into pure NFL chaos, the kind that only prime time seems capable of producing. Lamar Jackson did what Lamar Jackson does. He answered. He extended plays. He found receivers in moments that feel impossible to defend. Zay Flowers slipped behind coverage in a way that makes defensive coordinators lose sleep. Kenneth Gainwell crossed the goal line and suddenly the game felt like it was tipping again. Back and forth lead changes, momentum swinging so fast it made your head spin. With minutes left, it looked like Baltimore might have slammed the door, Lamar responding late and putting the Ravens in position to take the division. And that's where the narrative was supposed to lock in. Lamar delivers. Harbaugh celebrates. Steelers fans brace for another offseason of questions. But then Aaron Rodgers stepped back into the center of the storm. With less than a minute left, he orchestrated the response. No panic, no hesitation. He pointed upward, wrist taped, body battered, mind sharp. The touchdown to Calvin Austin wasn't just a play call, it was a moment of command. Rodgers breaking things down in the huddle, asking his receiver what he wanted, pushing for clarity, finally telling him to run the hitch and go, trusting that he'd cook his man. And he did. The defender ended up on all fours. The Steelers took the lead. That was the play. That was the moment. Not because it was flashy, but because it was decisive, because it was leadership crystallized under pressure. Chris Boswell's extra point pushed it to 3, and suddenly Baltimore had one last chance. A kickoff return cracked the door open. A 4th and 7 conversion extended the game when it felt like it should already be over. The Ravens marched into field goal range. Tyler Loop, a rookie who had been reliable all season, lined up from 44 yards. This is the league of kickers making kicks. This is the year of trust in specialists. And then the kick sailed wide right. 2 missed kicks in a span of seconds. Chaos. Pandemonium. The Steelers were champions of the North. McAfee's reaction leaned into what it felt like in that stadium. The sense of divine intervention. The jokes about holy water and John 3:16. The crowd erupting late into the night with no energy lost. Every fan rowing in the same direction. But beneath the humor was something serious. The realization that this Steelers team had flipped its identity in real time. Weeks ago, the fan base wanted everyone gone. Now they're talking about Super Bowls. And that swing doesn't happen without a quarterback who can stabilize the moment. This is where the Rodgers prove them all wrong line hits hardest. Because this wasn't about stats. This wasn't about dominance wire to wire. This was about control when control is scarce. Rodgers didn't need perfection. He needed belief. He needed his teammates to trust that when the play broke down, when the moment demanded a decision, he would deliver one. The huddle story with Calvin Austin matters because it shows a quarterback engaged, asking, adjusting, listening, then deciding. That's not a quarterback fading into the background. That's a quarterback driving the outcome. The ripple effects are everywhere. In the locker room, this kind of win changes how players look at each other. Cam Hayward playing some of his best football, dominating up front. TJ Watt flashing again, even grabbing an interception, reminding everyone what this defense can be when it's alive. On offense, the idea that your quarterback can still take command late gives everyone oxygen. It stretches belief. It turns a playoff berth into a potential run. Then there's Mike Tomlin. The conversation around his future didn't disappear because of this win, but it changed shape. Jay Glazer's comments about Tomlin potentially thinking about television hang in the background, not as a threat, but as context. If this were the end, what a way to go. If it isn't, what a statement to make. Tomlin coaching aggressively, trusting his team, winning the division in a game like this. That's not the posture of a coach who's lost the locker room. That's the posture of a coach still very much in control of it. For the Ravens, the loss stings in a way that lingers. Lamar was brilliant late. The offense answered when it needed to. And yet, it ends on a miss. That's the cruelty of the league. One kick can erase an entire night of resilience. It doesn't diminish Lamar's performance, but it does add another chapter to the story of how thin the margins are in January football. For Pittsburgh, the narrative flips completely. Monday Night Football, their night, hosting a playoff game, a fan base suddenly buzzing instead of boiling. The Texans coming in. A team that not long ago felt like it was collapsing now feels dangerous. And that danger is rooted in belief, in momentum, in the idea that once you're in the dance, anything can happen. McAfee's tone captures that feeling perfectly. The mix of disbelief, excitement, humor, and awe at how quickly the NFL can turn. One missed kick, one late drive, one quarterback refusing to fade quietly, and suddenly, the conversation shifts from firings to destiny. That doesn't guarantee anything. It doesn't crown anyone. But it forces everyone watching to admit something uncomfortable. Aaron Rodgers is still capable of defining moments. The Steelers are still capable of chaos. And the AFC North just reminded the league that nothing is settled until the clock hits 0 and the kick is actually good. That's why this reaction matters. It isn't hype for hype's sake. It's recognition of a moment where narrative collided with reality and reality won. Rodgers proved them all wrong, not by talking, not by flexing, but by standing tall when everything was on the line and letting the game bend around him. And now, whether you believe in destiny, divine intervention, or just the raw unpredictability of football, the Steelers are alive, the doubts are quieter, and the rest of the league has to reckon with a team that refused to disappear when it was told its time was up.